Start this overtime.
Call it plays in the air. Heads is the call. He said heads, it is a tails.
Oh, he said tails. He said tails. Bettis is out there yelling at him. He said, I called tails. Oh, he did call tails. Oh, that's exactly what Bettis is telling him. Oh, my gosh.
Now that is the message for tonight's gospel reading. You know, in that coin toss, you might remember this. That happened a couple Thanksgivings ago, the Steelers and the Detroit Lions, when Bettis calls tails and it turns out to be heads, and there was confusion. But what we learn is this, and what we've known for many years in our life, there's always two sides to every coin. There's heads and there's tails and there's heads. And in today's gospel reading, that's what the Pharisees lost track of. They forgot to realize, and this is true in life, that there are always two sides to every coin. Let's take a look at a section of today's gospel reading. Now, this particular section coming out of the 22nd chapter of Matthew, verse 20. Look at this. Show me, that's Jesus talking to the Pharisees, show me the coin that pays the census tax. Then they, that's the Pharisees, handed him, Jesus, the Roman coin. And he, Jesus, said to them, whose image is this? Whose inscription? They replied, Caesar's. You see, in that answer to Jesus, they turned out to be accurately wrong. Because the coin that Jesus shows them, they're answering a question that Jesus gives them based on just one side of the coin instead of taking a look at the other side of the coin. And this is the side of the coin that Jesus shows them. Now, that is probably a very accurate replica of the coin that the Pharisees hand Jesus. Jesus says, whose inscription and whose face. And what they should have said is, Jesus, would you please turn the coin around? You see, here's what happens. The Roman Empire existed for 450 years, from 100 BC to 350 AD. And the Roman Empire always had emperors. And the emperor of the Roman Empire was referred to as Caesar. It wasn't a family name, it was a title, like a czar, like a president. And whenever a new emperor, a new Caesar, a new king, a new czar came into power, they would always print a new coin in honor of that new emperor. And typically, they always put his first name on the back side of the coin, the tail side of the coin itself. So the coin will look something like this. And that particular coin is the coin dedicated to Julius Caesar. So when Jesus tells his disciples, whose coin is this, instead of the Pharisees quickly answering, it is Caesar's, that is basically too general. They should have said to Jesus, please turn the coin around. Let us see the backside of the coin. And then with accuracy, we'll tell you whose coin that is. It's either Julius Caesar, Tiberius Caesar, Octavian Caesar, Augustus Caesar. It's going to be one of the Caesars. They needed to be more specific. The same thing happens in today's world. If you're having a conversation with someone, you're talking about President Bush, what is the person you're talking to, what are they probably going to say to you? Which one? The first one or the second one? The young one or the old one? But they have to know which one you're talking about. So the Pharisees should have said to Jesus, Jesus, look, there is two sides to every coin. We need to see the other side before we answer the question, because they answer the question wrongly. You see, that's the message of life. There are two sides to every coin. There are two sides to every story. There are two sides to every argument. And whenever you make an assessment of something you're hearing, you always should say, look, I have to find out the other side. If someone walks up to you and they're going to tell you what they heard about a friend of yours, before you make an assessment, you should do what? You should say to that person, well, that's your take, that's your side. Now I'm going to go find out the other side. I have to know both sides before I make a legitimate, positive judgment about what I hear or about what I see. You know, some years ago, I went to visit a friend of mine. And when I got to their home, I pull up into the driveway and I see their young son, Gino. He's about 6 years old, and he's out in the yard, and he's got one of these little Boy Scout collapsible shovels. I'm sitting in my car. I'm trying to figure out, what is Gino doing with that shovel? And I'm watching Gino, and he looks like he sticks the shovel in the ground, and he wedges some soil free, and he takes it out. So I thought to myself, well, before I go to visit my friends, his father and his mother, I'm going to go over and talk to Gino, find out what Gino is up to. So I walk over to Gino, and as I get there, Gino has this little shovel, and he sticks it in the ground, and he pushes it in real hard. He frees out some soil, he takes it out. And I said to him, Gino, why are you digging that hole? And he looked at me and he said, I am not digging a hole. And then he got his shovel and he stuck it back in the ground. He pushes in real hard. He frees some soil and he takes the soil out. And I said to him, Gino, why are you digging that hole? And he looked at me and said, I am not digging a hole. And I thought to myself, Gino, if I thought you were going to turn out like this, I would have baptized you. And then Gino gets his shovel, and he sticks it back in the ground. He pushes down real hard. He frees out some soil, and he takes it back out of the ground. And I said to him, Gino, why are you digging that hole? And he said, I'm not digging a hole. And I said to him, Gino, if you're not digging a hole, then what are you doing? He said, I'm trying to see how high I can pile up dirt. And I thought to myself, two sides to every coin, two sides to every story. I made an assessment about what Gino was doing as I looked at him. But when Gino got his little shovel and he went out to the front yard, Gino never intended in digging a hole. That's not what he had in mind. His whole focus was to see how high he can pile up dirt. And when I walked away from Gino, I thought to myself, Kenny, that's a very valuable lesson in life. When you make assessments, judgments, determinations based upon one side of the coin, based upon your assessment, not what's really going on, what you think you see, you're probably going to be wrong. So after I left Gino, I went over and I rang the doorbell, and his dad came to the door, and they let me in the house, and we walked into the kitchen. And Gino's mom was always good with getting on the coffee and bringing out something to eat. And so we're there having a great time, and I'm talking to his mom and talking to his dad. We're having this incredible conversation, and all of a sudden, Gino's mom looks out the kitchen window, and she starts screaming to her husband, Hun, come here. Gino's got a big hole in the yard. And I said to her, hey, take care. He's only piling up dirt. But the message of today's gospel reading, it's simple. But for those who haven't followed it, you probably make assessments in your life that are wrong. And once you make an assessment that's wrong, you, after that, need to walk up to the person and say, look, I am sorry. I thought you were doing this, and I told everyone that's what you were doing. And now that I see the other side of the story, I realize that I was wrong. When Jesus said to the Pharisees, whose coin is this? They should have looked at it and said, well, we know this much. It belongs to the Roman Empire, but we don't know whose coin it is. Jesus turned the coin around. And if they had asked that to Jesus, they turned the coin around, they would have said, that's the coin of Julius Caesar. They would have been accurate. They would have been making an assessment based upon two sides of the same coin. What a powerful little message. So when you leave here tonight, make sure the next time you look at something, you hear something, you see something, don't make a judgment about it until you gather all the information. Make sure you see both sides of the story and then make your assessment. Because anything less than that, as the Pharisees, you will probably be accurately wrong. There are two sides to every coin.